Also here with Uncle Mick Adams. Would you like to introduce yourself, Uncle Mick?
Yeah, Uncle Mick Adams, Yarragana Wurathi Gurindji person, Senior Research Fellow with the Indigenous Health Infonet.
Fantastic. And you presented this morning.
Yeah, we presented today on a project that we've been involved with, a Lowicha funded program called Valuing Young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Males. We did a national thing, national research project with myself and Len Collard from University of WA and Jack Bullman from Mifflinbar Corporation. But also I've been involved with the project, similar but smaller project, with Professor James Smith and Jason Bonson that are working up at Menzies.
Fantastic. So one of the things we were having a bit of a conversation before we jumped on was the need to value young men and where this project came from. I mean, as a woman, it wasn't until I heard a presentation from Red Dust Healing did I understand how we need to actually show our young men that they're valued. Do you want to talk us about where the project came from?
Yeah, well, Lowicha ran a series of meetings to look at doing research in the male space, and one of the reason why I've got it, I've been involved with men's health for over 35 years, so when the opportunity came, I'm sure I put up my hand. But the other thing, Len Collard and I were working on a Marmon project. It's a young fathers project, talking to the fathers how to be fathers, or what they thought was their role, and talking to their sons and nephews and that, how they viewed their father and what would they like to be when they're growing up to be fathers. So when Lowicha sort of had this meeting and put out a brief or application for people to apply, Len and I, sure, this is a thing for us, because we've spoke about how do we talk to the younger people about growing up, because with social media and other bad influences, how people get involved with that, and so a lot of the guys haven't got good role models or good leaders, so they go out on their own and get into trouble, muck up and all that. Not to say I didn't do it, but I've done that as a young fellow. But now I'm able to look at my experience and try to talk to young people about their experience and try to encourage them to look at a positive way of life.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about getting into trouble, but I was just thinking about how a lot of our men are demonised, say, through the media. So
yeah.
With the Bill Leak cartoon, when you hear about the anti-intervention, I mean, do you think things like that have an impact on our young men?
Oh, certainly, yeah. Especially the anti-intervention, labelled Aboriginal males as perpetrators and white patients and all that. They forget that there are other men who don't do that. And if we look at the intervention and the little children are sacred, out of the 99 recommendations, they only implemented half of one, which was really the value of doing that research wasn't really there. I mean, it was just like a witch hunt, looking for information and really going on hearsay. I mean, sure, people play up, and there are bad things going on, not only in Aboriginal communities, but other communities as well. So the thing that we did was, when we went out for our project, is we interviewed older men and younger men, but we also included women interviewed, because women have a role to play, particularly when the child is young and they grow them up to age 10 or whatever, and then men usually take over. But men are present all the way through it, but their roles and responsibilities sort of come at a bit of later time when they've got more time to look after it. So what we did on ours is what I call video interviews. So we did we talked to the people about being videoed and talked to them, and we just set up a video on a tripod,
similar to this one,
like you got here now. And just asked the question from behind the camera and talked to it. And we didn't sort of prompt. We sort of just asked the question, what do you think about that? And then sometimes we would say, well, what did you think of this? And people will give us their answers.
Did anything surprise you as a man yourself? Were you surprised by the answers, or were they what you thought they would be?
I wasn't overly surprised, because being in the space for that long, it confirmed a lot of things. I think with the young people, they don't feel valued because no one's really listening to them. But a lot of times they're not listening as well. So what really needs to be done is having the conversations with your, with the family together, having good, solid conversations. And I think once we are together and knowing what each other's doing, and giving good advice to children, I think really looks at how to value young kids. Because if we don't know what they're wanting, then we can't help them. But then we've got to, I suppose, lead by example as well, and give them the opportunity to take the better choices rather than the negative choices.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that if you would, if communities and families were actually doing that two-way communication, there'd be a whole other additional benefits that would come, not just, the young man's improved health and well-being. There would be greater connectivity, stronger communities.
Well, the connection would be even greater. The conversations would be really good. But I think the other side of it is, as older parents, we'll learn off the younger ones as well, because modern technology, social media, Facebook, whatever, we're getting to know how to use that, and a lot of parents don't know how to use those things. So, but the other thing is not so much the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island language. It's a language that kids use today.
Yeah.
So they've got whether it's slang or whether it's a language they use different modes of communication.
They do. And I was actually just thinking, I was trying not to smile while you were talking, because it's really serious and important stuff, but you were saying, men take over at 10, and, it's about that age.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I know every man, if an auntie growls them or their mother growls them, they'll still jump.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't matter how old you are.
No.
Well, even when I got into the program, I was at the age of 45 or something like that, over time, and the uncles and that keep calling me boy, and young fella, and I said, oh well, I'll take that, even though the whole hair was grey, I'll take that. But that's the thing. Men, we nurture our kids as well.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we don't give them the right choices.
Yeah.
Or the right information, and they sort of. What I was saying to some of the other guys I was talking to is that kids, when they're growing up, they'll watch you and then they'll mimic you.
Yeah.
And if you're doing the wrong thing, they'll even mimic you, and then we go and growl them and blame them. but it's really us that need to sort of lead that sort of more passive and positive way of life rather than being negative all the time.
Absolutely. Before we sign off, is there anything that any outstanding messages from the work you're doing, or anything you want to tell young men in particular?
Well, one of the things we're doing with our research, Len and I, we've got a portal on the Health Infonet.
Right here on the shirt?
Health Infonet website.
Yep.
So all the raw material is going to be on there.
Okay.
So anybody wants to have a look at what people were saying in the research, it'll be there. No editing or nothing.
Fantastic.
But we are going to do a 8 to 10 minute video to use as a educational purpose, and that'd be edited to just give the messages, directly.
Fantastic.
But the raw material, I mean, people could look at that and say, well, I agree with that, or I don't agree with that, but then that'll give me some incentive, I think. We're hoping that it will.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you want to add before we...
No, I think all the young fellows should take the best opportunities that they're gathering. I mean, we try things like university or school. You try that, you miss out sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to go further.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But be good to your mother.
Always be good to the mother.
Be good to your mother.